About the authenticity of Torah. The Torah is given from heaven, Torah Chaim, and that both the Jewish people received at Mount Sinai the written Torah and the oral Torah. Why do they have to go together? Because you cannot even understand the written Torah without the oral Torah. They go together. They're like one package. They're even compared to the closeness and the marriage of husband and wife. That there's a bond, there's a unity between the two. And the deeper the connection, the deeper a person takes the oral Torah and learns the written Torah, he is creating deeper and deeper intimacy between the written and oral Torah. So Bezrat Hashem, and one time I told you, met somebody on the streets, and they were asking me if I heard the good news. So what's the good news? You know, the good news. And they proceeded to read some verses from Isaiah the prophet and Ezekiel the prophet. And after they started telling me the good news, so I rather quickly understood that I could ask them the following question. I said, I see that you like to read verses from the Tanakh, the Bible. What are your thoughts on the oral law? And I knew their answer. They said, oh, no. We don't really go with the oral Torah. So I said, like the great Rabbi Hillel said many years ago to a similar person, he said to them, well, what letter does the Torah begin with? So a person opened up his book. He says it begins with a bet, right? Bereshit. So I said, how do you know that the first letter is a bet? Maybe it's an aleph. What do you guys say? What's the first letter of the Torah? You confident with that answer?
Yep.
You sure?
I'm sure.
I'm challenging maybe a lot that you've heard before. You sure it's a bet? Final answer?
Yeah.
How do you know it's not an aleph? What's your name again, my friend?
Adam.
Adam, you sure?
I'm sure.
How do you know?
You can open up the Tanakh and it's Sasa Bereshit.
But how do you know that that letter is called a bet?
Oh.
Maybe it's an aleph.
Because of the Midrash.
Meaning, does the Torah tell you what the first letter is? Who told you it's a bet? Yes, my friend, what's your name? Binyamin.
My Rebbe told me, and then his Rebbe told him.
Oh, your Rebbe told you? And his Rebbe told him?
Well, Moshe got from
And whose Rebbe is Rebbe? Who is your Rebbe's Rebbe?
Moshe.
Moshe Rabbeinu. And who told Moshe? Hashem, God. It's pretty good Rebbe. God's very good. He's the best Rebbe ever. So how do we know that it's a bet? Because the text does not say what the letters are. It doesn't tell you what the letters are. The only way you could even begin to read the Torah is if you have an oral tradition. Furthermore, if that wasn't enough, the vowelization, you can't even read any word without vowelization. No letter moves without vowelization. What's the first letter? B, b. Even if it's a bet. But a bet has vowelization. How do you read B? Maybe it's V. Ray. She. How do you read she? That's the first word? No, it's not. It's Bereshis. But there's vowelization. So it moves. Without vowelization, that's not Torah. You need movement. It's only where does vowelization come from? You know who taught you? Your Rebbe, right? And who taught him? His Rebbe's Rebbe, who was Moshe Rabbeinu. And therefore it's very, very important. Let this sink in to your kishkas, my friends, that without an oral tradition, you cannot have a written Torah. Yes, Josh?
Do you then proceed to tell them, I'll bet you have no idea what you're talking about, and then
That was very good.
and walk away?
So I don't like making so much confrontation, but that was cute. but I try to just educate people, is I know that you've formulated a way of thinking, but I want you to appreciate that it doesn't seem to be an intellectually sound approach. There seems to be a big gap. And even if you use like fancy, linguistic and raise your voice and okay, that doesn't impress me because I want to know what's the content of the data points that you're making. And here to not be able to answer where your awareness of reading the text comes from, to have a whole huge gaping hole there, I have a hard time then now seeing that you could read anything from the text and then tell me that you also don't believe in an oral tradition. Usually at that point I would invite them, if they want to come and learn in yeshiva, we could talk this out in more long format. You can come and see what the oral tradition is all about. You can come and learn Talmud. Another thing that I'd like to mention on the oral tradition. It seems to be trendy nowadays for people to make all sorts of comments about the Talmud and the oral tradition. And say, well, I saw like a 2-second TikTok video and it seemed to say something that didn't seem so nice about the Talmud. Well, I've developed my entire worldview based on some TikTok video on almost 4,000 years of Jewish history. And by the way, do we take learning Gemara and Talmud very seriously? We literally have some of the wisest human beings in the entire world that spend their entire life learning Talmud. And somehow this person, from some 2-second TikTok video, or I've researched it a lot, like a week worth of research on ChatGPT, watching, a few people talk about the Talmud, and have somehow developed an entire worldview of what the Talmud is all about. And somehow have a very sophisticated understanding what the Talmud is. So if you really want to understand what this is, could you not appreciate that thousands of years of Jewish scholarship and wisdom and human beings that are investing their entire life, day and night, and the amount that we call Mesiras Nefesh, absolute commitment. People who are literally learning. The Stipler would learn for 36 hours straight, sleep for a little bit, and continue learning Talmud nonstop. The Chazon Ish would learn until he literally just fell asleep, and then wake up and then just learn until he fell asleep. Oftentimes days of learning. So maybe, if you want to develop some sophisticated opinion on the Talmud and the Gemara, maybe give it more than like a day or two. I wasn't surprised, but this is the nature of our generation. Somebody who would otherwise, people would consider in the world a sophisticated person who comments on, social, political events in the world. So they heard somebody said, a great sage, and on kind of real time, they're like, let me just check up that. It's like, oh yeah, that person is obviously crazy racist, crazy off the charts. Wait a second. We're talking about human beings who gave their entire life to understanding the depth of what the Talmud is. And you developed an entire worldview after a 2-second, Wikipedia search, a 2-second AI assessment. I just find that very intellectually dishonest. And therefore, anybody in the world now who really wants to develop a mature understanding of thousands of years of Jewish transmission, come and learn in yeshiva. Come and learn for real and spend real time looking at what we're all about. And I believe if you do it in an authentic way, you will see that the Gemara is about bringing God's light in the most beautiful way to the world. Just bringing goodness and blessing to all humanity. And that's what we're all about right here. Peace and goodness and love and happiness, mental health for all of humanity, helping the world feel deeply happy and content. Yes, Yosef?
Have you ever met people who claim to have read the Talmud and the book they're talking about, they ordered on Amazon, and is about this thick?
So I read the Talmud, the Wikipedia one-pager. ChatGPT, sum up for me the Talmud in one page. Well, I read the summary in a page, like, and then it came out like a bit long. You're like, shorter! Exclamation mark. I said shorter! Exclamation mark a few times. Okay, fine. How's this? More concise. I read it. It's important to just appreciate. We're talking about some of the most magnanimous, some of the most loving, sensitive human beings on the planet. People who are so great both in scholarship, but also so great in being human beings. Their love, their social justice, their giving to other human beings, helping, loving. To appreciate, we're talking about something major here. At least to have the intellectual honesty to appreciate there's something very big here. And if you really want to get to know what it is, then come. I say come for 40 days. 40 days, 40 days, to be able to get a bit of an introduction to the beauty of Gemara, of Talmud. And to be open. You can be critical, but if you're going to come in cynical, then you've already blocked yourself off. There's a big difference between cynicism, being cynical, and critical. Critical, bring it on. You want to ask intellectual questions? Let's go. Cynical, it means we're in a tribal war now. I've already decided what I believe in, just about like two talking heads. You really want to get the truth? Be open. So that's the beginning point, is that we want to be able to give a space that humanity can come and they could share, and we will share with you the beauty of the Torah. Any questions so far, my dear friends? Amen. Yeah, Josh.
It seems a little frustrating, and I'm sure there's a good reason for this, that Hashem, in dictating the Torah to Moses, didn't simply add a line that said as an extra commandment, and be sure to follow. I mean, they do say this, and it does say this in so many words, but be sure to follow the oral tradition of your sages throughout the generations.
It says it.
Well, it says to follow
In Deuteronomy.
Yeah, but it says
follow the rabbis.
It says follow the rabbis, but that could hypothetically mean, I don't know, follow like their...
So we're going to learn a lot about this in Lukute Cafe. Making a little plug here. Tuesday, Wednesday morning, Rabbi Isai, 6:30 a.m. Free Nespresso bar, open bar, all you can drink. But back to us. Loi Soser. There is a mitzvah of listening to, yes, those who understand the oral tradition, and therefore that even in the written law, it weds together the Talmud. And here we're talking about it's a sensible thought to understand that there's people that are bigger and wiser than you and I. And we're not talking about blind faith. Go have a conversation with the Rosh Yeshiva. Have a conversation with the Rosh Yeshiva. Meet somebody who when you walk out, you appreciate this person has a pretty good grasp on how the world works, has a certain clarity on things that are clearer than myself. And you know what? Some of the greatest rabbis, you know what they do when you go and ask for advice? They actually don't tell you what to do. You know what they do? They organize your brain. Meaning, you come like, but Rab, this thing is happening, and that, and this thing. It's like, okay, and you finished? No. And it's she, and then this thing. Okay? So then what the rabbi often can do is okay, let's start at the beginning. So you're saying that you got involved in this business venture with that person. What were the background that led to that? Oh, okay, let's speak that story out. I see that you're upset about X. Well, technically, that person did break something in law, and therefore, if you believe that damage was made to the entity, then you can break off that relationship. Oh, okay, I didn't know that it was something that they did that actually went against the law, and now I understand. Thank you. So, oftentimes what the rabbi will do, he'll just lay all the pieces out, And by the end, you kind of figure it out yourself. But before you speak to that person, oftentimes your mind is just like jumbled around and disorganized. So the greatest rabbis, they just create clarity of the situation and then let you take the step. Here's a great one. Should I go to college or spend a little bit more time learning in yeshiva? Well, let's speak out the sides. Do you have financial ability to stay in learning? Are you going to get a degree that has some bearing, or just going to get some general, I don't know, I'm just going to hand them $80,000 to just hang out in some frat? And let's just talk about the decisions of what it means and the consequences of each decision. So the idea of listening to people that are bigger than us, it's not blind faith. It's just being able to see what is being said here. Yeah?
Would it also be similar to how a Hasidus book might have a little bit higher of a price than it should, so not just anyone can walk in and buy it? Maybe the oral Torah isn't put there so that not just anyone can take the Torah and follow it. So it makes you rely on the community of Judaism.
That's for sure. I remember, I've mentioned this many times before. I went on a trip to Israel and I was offered a free gift. And the free gift was, you can pick some Jewish books, so I looked in the catalog and I saw that there was the oral tradition, the Talmud. And it was like a very nice looking book, so I remember I ordered it and it came in the mail. It was nice, big, like Schottenstein Talmud, the Talmud. I realized it was only the first edition of like 5,000. So I sat down at my desk in Toronto, put it on the table. I was like, the Talmud. Okay, let's knock this thing out tonight. I was pretty, sat down, and it's in English. I speak English, so already the language barrier is gone. I couldn't make heads and tails. I don't know you realize when you open up a book of a Talmud, it's like you need a teacher. You need somebody to get you going to make sense of how this thing works, what the technology is. Everybody knows that. Try to open up the Talmud. Ask a guy who walks in one day. It's like, yeah, I'm a Jew, Okay, that oral tradition thing, hand me that book over there. Let me lay into this thing. And then, and I say, yeah, just come back tomorrow and give me a presentation on the Talmud. And even if the guy's a super intellectual, smart guy, it doesn't come across. Because if you're not part of the Masorah, of the transmission, you realize there's things that can't be figured out. And I'll add, there are things that we have not written down also. There's certain things that don't get written down. You might say to yourself, everything's written down. You'll realize as you go through Jewish life, there's things that we don't write down. We don't write them down because the nuance and the sensitivity of it is such that you can't write them down. I'll tell you one thing, when you get involved in marriage, there's certain sensitivities of things that can't be written down. It has to be that I have a mentor, I have someone that I'm going to who's teaching all the way back from Moses. My friends? You are going to be the next generation that are going to teach your children and your students. And therefore, it's very, very important that you start to own this. That I need to be the next link in the chain. And the fact that you're here today, all the way from Australia, and all the way from the four corners of the globe, and that you made it here, is that there's a calling. And you have to hear the call, that you're the next link in the chain. And there's no way to get out of it. That's right. You're in. Yeah, Yosef.
As far as all the teachings that aren't written down, I heard it was said in the name of one of the Goanim, and they said it. They brought down from some of their Rabbaim that instead of having 6 tractates of Mishnah, there were anywhere from 600 to 6,000.
Correct. We lost a lot in the times of the students of Rabbi Akiva. But there's much more. There's an oral tradition on the oral tradition. There's the whole niggin. You know what the niggin is? You know what a niggin? Anybody here know what a niggin is? A niggin? How do you translate the word niggin? Usually a melody without words. The niggin means the song of the Gemara. There's a song of the Gemara. It's like a dance. That's also, we shuckle. We move like this. I went to university. I never saw guys in the library learning calculus really like, whoa, this stuff is blowing my mind. Some history buff whoa. Is that there's like a rhythm, there's a beat. When we learn, it's in us. There's a vibration. Because we're like candles. It says our soul is like a candle. Ner Hashem nishmat adam, that the soul of a man is like a candle. And a candle flickers. That's why when you start feeling something touching your soul, you start to move a little bit. You start feeling. We're not like ice, ice box, man. We feel something. You could jump in a cold plunge, but you get out and you're mamish moving. You're moving. You're warm. Something is warm. Something is alive. So this is the oral tradition. And it's important to know that the oral tradition is this song that's coursing through us. And you get the song because you spend time with people who have the song. That there's a song of Gemara. And either you could listen to a particular Spotify playlist, which will go unnamed, or you could choose other songs. And to the degree that you're listening to other songs, it might be hard for you to hear the song of the Gemara. It's important to get the song, get the niggin of the Gemara. Because this will be the song that you're going to sing in Shemayim. After 120 years, we're going to be singing this song. And to the degree that you heard the song, so the Jewish people, we love music. We love music. The Beis HaMikdash is filled with music. We're all about music. We mamish love music. And King David, who's the greatest Jew, is the warrior prince musician. My dear friends, we should have the great merit of hearing the song of learning, hearing the song of the Gemara, understanding that the Gemara goes together with the written law. We're going to be speaking more about the entire journey from leaving Mitzrayim to receiving the Torah. And we're going to be also going into the very, very amazing Iker of the Rambam. Bless you. The amazing Iker of the Rambam, how the Torah will not be switched. There will not be another version. That the OG Torah is the one that's here to stay. We're going to be speaking about that and everything that means for us and for all generations. It's an honor to learn together. It's an honor to grow together. May we be Zoicha Mamish once and for all. To hear the great, great song of Mashiach himself, the greatest teacher of Torah that ever was and ever will be. And may we be Zoicha Mamish to tomorrow have Mashiach here teaching the Shir in Esha Torah as the great light is coming out. Ki Metzion Teitz Torah with Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash b'mher of Yameinu. Amen. Amen. Have a wonderful day, my friends. Call to